everybody. Welcome to another show, another episode of HBTV, the show, with your host, Harry Bulgarian. This is actually episode number 3 of this weekend. We had two so far, two great episodes. First on Friday with K9. That was really cool to get to know him and talk to him a little bit. And then yesterday had a special episode with Siegrid, Bangyay from Sagada, Pottery in the Philippines. And then today, looking forward to talking to my next guest at FIL-AM Nation Select with Coach Chris Gopez. Hope you guys stick around and watch. It'll be a good chat with the coach. We're just going to talk about him, about his organization, his goals with it. I just want to get down with that. And for most of you who know me, you know that I used to coach basketball myself. Love the game, love coaching, love making those relationships and forming those bonds, and also just building these players to young men, young women, and being a part of their process, their journey, not just with basketball, but with life. And I miss it. Unfortunately, I'm not able to coach anymore due to schedules and changing careers, but hopefully one day I get to do that. Go back into coaching at least, whatever level, high school especially. So Coach March, hopefully next season when it opens up, I'll be right there on the sidelines with you. Shout out to my guy, Coach March at El Segundo High School, doing his thing there, and Coach Webster, he's doing his thing at MLK High School. So just riding along with coaching and mentoring young individuals. I had my opportunity to first really coach in 2002 when I went to Japan. I was able to live and work there. I was teaching English first with the Nova Corporation and then with the JET program. Many of you guys know probably that the JET program places individuals into high schools and junior highs and elementary schools, and I had a chance to teach. Later on, become one of the coaches for both the boys and girls, and I just transitioned to the girls basketball team after a few months. But learned a lot. That was my first time, and just imagine somebody from Carson, California, going to Japan, didn't speak a lick of English. Didn't speak a lick of Japanese, and my students at the time, they were very minimal with English, and getting on the basketball court with a basketball and using gestures more than anything for my communication. But I had a special event yesterday. Got to meet up with a couple of my first students and first basketball players that I was blessed to coach, and we all got on a Zoom to talk to each other. It's been about 15 years since I was able to see them last while I visited Japan, probably in 05, 06, and I haven't seen none of those group members since that time. But it was great to see them, great to catch up, great to see and meet their families and kids, and for me that's a big part. For coaching, again, is building those relationships, maintaining those bonds. And I think what a coach and the players, especially, if they have a good relationship and they touch upon each other, that these bonds will last forever, I think. And it was great to see them. That was Mika, Risa, Emika, Hisaka, and Nami. Thank you again for last night. That was a great time with all of you. So again, thank you for tuning in and watching. If you're watching this on the replay, we're going to talk a little bit about FIL-AM Nation Select with Coach Chris Gopez. and we'll get into that in just a second. As I always do, gonna play a little bit of music, sit up on the Zoom, and then transition over, and we'll get to talking with Coach Chris Gopez here on HBTV, the show. Stay tuned. right, so I'm going to transition really quick. I'll be right back. We're going to set up with Coach Chris Gopez, bring him on a Zoom, and we'll talk all about what he's doing with FIL-AM Nation Select. Stay tuned.
Harry, how you doing?
All right, guys. Thank you for holding on and tuning in with me. My next guest is Coach Chris Gopez. He runs the FIL-AM Nation Select organization. I'm going to bring him on. We're ready to Zoom. So please welcome Coach Chris. I'm going to transition over right now. Coach, thanks for hanging out. I do appreciate your time. How are you?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me. You know, definitely on a beautiful Sunday out here in Cali. You know, it's always good to have good conversation, especially on the rest day.
Absolutely, absolutely. So this is pretty much my first time to get to meet you and see you face to face like this, I guess on Zoom. But do me a favor, give us your 30-second elevator speech about who Coach Chris is.
Yeah, pretty much, you know, I was actually born in the Philippines, pretty much came out here to the U.S. when I was 7 and pretty much was raised in Los Angeles, the heart of L.A. Pretty much grew up playing basketball, pretty much fell in love with it, watching the 90s of the Lakers. Pretty much just enjoy the whole Showtime run and pretty much just fell in love with the game and pretty much took my career from the high school level and, you know, went on to college and pretty much went to the Philippines to take a hit of see how far I can go. And so, you know, it was a very short stint, but the experience was there. I can share it to a lot of our kids that, you know, with the program that I also started with Edge Basketball International, which is a Development Basketball Academy, which is held in Laverne, California. And, with FIL-AM Nation, it just started literally last year, beginning of December. And I know a lot of people have this idea in their minds, and with the experience of 14 years of running club basketball, running tournaments and events, I always felt like the execution is the biggest key in any business. And so with that, putting that all together as far as the business plan, now is we got FIL-AM Nation.
That's
so
awesome.
Pretty excited about it,
Cool. Well, all right. So that's a lot to unpack, and we're going to go through every single one. But I'm going to just rewind a little bit. So you're telling me, first of all, what part of the Philippines you from?
I was actually born in Quezon City.
Okay.
My mom is from Bulacan. My dad's from San Fernando, Pampanga. And obviously any families from the Philippines obviously want a great life. So my grandmother was the first person in our family that migrated to the Philippines. And then she migrated from the Philippines to the US.
Yeah.
And pretty much, she brought all her 7 kids. My mom actually left my brother and I for about 2 years until, she got a steady job and, saved some money. And finally she was able to bring us over. So.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of it, right? Like a lot of us who are here now, a lot of our parents either, went to school here or they even joined the military, just like you said, just to get a better way of life, right? So
absolutely
awesome, man. Awesome. I'm from Zambales myself. I don't know if you know where that is or heard about that, but
I do.
Shout out to Bulacan and Zambales, to the people out there. So from the PI, right? You come to LA.
Yes.
What part of LA do you land in?
Actually, we were actually in the heart of LA off of Crenshaw and Olympic. Man. So we were predominantly in a Black Hispanic community.
Nice.
I probably could say that, there was probably just a handful of Filipino families out there, but not a lot. It's not like your typical Filipino town that you normally see in West Covina or, the heart of Filipino town in LA. But we were pretty much in the heart of LA. I can recall even the 92 riots, how crazy that was, man. And, you got liquor store owners on top of their roof trying to protect their liquor stores.
Yep.
But it was definitely an experience to learn the culture of others,
Sure.
So to me, that was the beauty of the advantage I had living in LA, just because the diversity.
Sure.
And we weren't too far from Beverly Hills, so you get to see the white folks.
No, that's cool. So yeah, at least you got a mixture with that. So you're one of the few that I know now that grew up in that area. Good friends over the years I've heard lived there. My brother-in-law, he actually grew up in that area as well, and I was very surprised to learn that Pinoy's Filipinos lived out that way. Like you said, usually West Covina, Carson, Long Beach,
right.
Cerritos, and all those areas. But that's cool. So, what high school you go to? LA High or
you know what?
Crenshaw?
No, you know what? The unique part about during the time I was growing up, we actually got bussed out to Bel Air.
Oh, whoa.
For elementary.
Okay.
So we would wake up in the morning, 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, hit up a bus location where the yellow school bus would pick us up.
Yes.
Because back then LAUSD was packed, and we pretty much got bussed out to elementary school called Roscommon Road Elementary up in Bel Air, up in the mountains of Bel Air, and right above UCLA.
Nice.
And then we worked our way to, since we came out of that elementary area, we eventually went to the next junior high school in the area, which was Emerson, which is in Westwood.
Okay. Wow.
Off of Westwood between Santa Monica and Wilshire. And so that to me was the beautiful part about growing up, because now it was such a good diversity,
right.
Hispanics, Blacks, Asians, Persians, you name it. I mean, like every ethnicity was in that pretty much environment. And then my home school was actually Crenshaw.
Okay.
So needless to say that, obviously my parents didn't feel like, it was a great, you know, you know, for me to actually go there just because of the whole demographics, but also I just knew basketball just wasn't going to be a good fit for me. Crenshaw was obviously a stacked program,
Yeah, for sure.
even though I knew the coach,
Yeah.
Coach Willie West at that time. They were rolling at least 15, 18 deep. LA High was another local school that was closer to me as well.
Okay.
But we ended up going to University High School
Okay.
for a year. And then from there, I transferred actually out to go to a private school. So all my life it was public school. And then from there, went to a private school, Bell Jeff in Burbank.
Bell Jeff,
so
okay.
it was definitely a big transition, just from going public school all my life. And then all of a sudden a huge change to go to a private school. So
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Probably
Again,
the best decision of my life, though.
Awesome. Again, you're watching HBTV, the show with Coach Chris Gopez. So, Coach, when did you start hitting the blacktops? Was that back in the Philippines or over here at Emerson?
You know what? It actually started in elementary, man. Just going to school so early in the morning. We would get there by 7:15. I can recall, from 7:15 to 8 o'clock, you're like, man, what do I do? So we were able to actually get rent out a ball in the ballroom,
right?
And then play some basketball,
Nice.
And I can recall the just the mornings, man, from 7:15 to 8 o'clock, just sweating and dripping every day, just playing basketball, or even like flag football, whatever it was, whatever the TA. We had a very cool TA, who was very athletic, and whether it be playing basketball, volleyball, or the monkey bars, whatever it was. Pretty much that's where it all started. And then my mom signed me up for a local park and rec, Queen Anne Park, down the street from LA High.
Right.
And that's where it all really began, just the whole love for the game, and just trying to be like Byron Scott and Michael Cooper and
sure.
All those greats, Magic Johnson, trying to throw that hook shot. But just to grow in that environment, it kind of led me into travel ball. So from park and rec, I got discovered to play travel ball, and then the rest was history.
Nice. So just give me a time frame. Like what year is this when you're starting to pick up basketball and then like travel ball?
Man, that I want to say. Okay, so I started playing basketball probably like in third grade. So man, I can't even remember what year that was. I want to say early 90s.
Okay.
Early 90s. Or maybe even late 80s. Because I can recall, let's see, 92 to 96. I was in junior high. So yeah, so late 80s, early 90s. That's when I really started getting into travel ball from the park and rec environment. And then, I started playing this travel ball circuit, which back then there was only one level. I mean, like if you're in 8th grade, you're going to play every 8th grade level.
Nice.
I mean, like there's no gold, silver, bronze, or copper level. It was just, I mean, if you're the cream of the crop, you're the cream of the crop, So I played for a travel ball team. During my class year, we even had going against Tyson Chandler. Those were the big names. So that group itself definitely had a great class, especially when I graduated in 2000. So
okay.
So with the basketball circuit, it was definitely a awesome experience just being able to compete against the top players.
Yeah, just asking about that because you said travel ball during that time, and honestly, I grew up with a single mom, and anything that if I said, hey, can I do this? Can I do that? If it involved money, wasn't gonna do it, right? But what was available to me at that time here in Carson in this area, I think there's like either one or two travel ball teams. One of them was Slam and Jam, which started early 80s. And
Izzy Washington.
They were stacked. You know what I mean? I couldn't. No way I can get on that team, right?
They had the Craven Twins.
Yeah.
During that time, the Craven Twins.
Yeah, exactly.
They had they had some guy. He even went to Missouri at that time. I forget his name. But there was definitely that Slam and Jam team was stacked.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, and you're talking about the Craven twins. They're after me. I mean, Tayshawn is
Yeah,
after me. You know what I mean? Like 4 or 5 years after me. But yeah, that's cool that you had an opportunity to even get play and play with that team. So you're picking up, you're doing all this travel ball. You get to high school. How was that experience playing in there?
the high school experience was actually, my first year. It was I was at a loss actually. I
Mm,
didn't know if I was good enough yet. Obviously, I've obviously played against a lot of top players going into high school.
mm-hmm.
But going to high school, I mean, everybody can start playing already. Especially during our times, right? I mean,
Sure.
you had some great ball players. Making varsity, and
Mm,
unfortunately, my freshman year I didn't make varsity. I made the JV squad, but I just kept working, man. And as soon as I went to a private school, now that obviously brought the momentum from what I was when I was growing up, as far as my whole competitive side, to an environment where it was a small school, about probably 400 or 500 kids, versus you're looking at what 15, 1,800 kids in a public school.
sure.
So the opportunity was a lot better, and I felt like in the private school sector, the coaches were more, in your best interest as a player. And at that time, the head coach was recruiting, and I know recruiting was illegal back then, the way he did it, but, he did it.
Sure.
And, I would say what he did for the kids that he recruited, including me, definitely put not only the school on the map, but also it put us all in a good situation,
Right.
you
Right.
know,
Right. Right.
collegiately wise.
Okay. Okay.
So
So you were able to play college, right?
yes,
What
yes.
division and which school did you go to?
You know what? I had a lot. I had probably about 5, 6 options of college.
Mm,
It came down to like Occidental Division 3 school.
okay.
There was Park University.
Clark.
There were NAIA. But when I took this trip to Cal Maritime, which
Mm-hmm.
is in Vallejo, California,
Okay.
one, it was really cool because the environment was it was a Filipino community in Vallejo.
Right.
But the second aspect of why I chose Cal Maritime was because it actually had its own ship on the campus.
Right.
And what they told me was that you're gonna go on this ship and you're gonna get to travel the world. I'm like, really? I'm like, okay, cool. So my
Yeah.
sophomore year, either my freshman or sophomore year, summertime, I ended up jumping on that ship.
Mm,
And what Cal Maritime provided was they did a semester at sea program
wow.
for within
Very
the
cool.
Cal State system.
Okay.
you know. So if you go to Cal State Long Beach or Monterey Bay or whatever it is, whatever Cal State system you're in, they actually offered it, to those that actually majored in like, business or whatever that had to do with the sea, anything that had to do with animals in the water, you know. So pretty much we got to travel the world. We went to Australia, New
Wow.
Zealand,
Wow.
Fiji, a place that a lot of people don't normally go because it's so
Sure.
expensive. Tahiti.
Wow.
Um, we got to ship around a small island called the Marquesas Islands,
Yep. Marcus Islands. Yep.
which is Nuka Hiva.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously the ship sailed from Hawaii. So there was like 2 tours where the first group went, and then we met the ship in Hawaii, and then from Hawaii we sailed that pretty much that route. And the cool thing about it, we got to pass the equator, and just to get to experience the water, man. Like
Yeah.
it was an unbelievable experience.
I bet. I bet.
Yeah.
Do you know if they still do that program at Cal
Yeah, they
Maritime?
still
Oh, that's
do, man.
cool.
They still
That's
do.
really
So it's
cool.
required. It's
Uh,
required. If you're an engineer, it's definitely required for the engineers. You go on three tours. But if you're a
mm-hmm.
business major, you do 1 tour. So
Right.
the good thing about the business is that when you go to these countries, you get to actually learn, other businesses,
Mm,
whether it be import, export, or
nice.
how they do logistics, because
Yep.
that's pretty much the degree I got is logistics.
Awesome. I only know
Yeah.
one other guy that went to Cal Maritime. He was my year. Shout out to my beanie Nicholas. He graduated from Cal Maritime, so that's
What's his
cool.
last name? You know?
Nicholas. Mabini Nicholas. He's not. He's like
Mabini,
96
okay,
or something like that.
okay,
But yeah, that's the only other guy. So again, you're
yeah,
watching HBTV, the show with Coach Chris Gopez. So I'm just moving forward. Moving forward. You got Cal
yes,
Maritime under your belt. You had a great time over there. You toured the world. Now you're talking about some pro-am stuff. You're going to the Philippines, right?
yes,
Tell us about that.
yeah. So prior to the Philippines, I got an opportunity to play in the NBA Summer Pro League in Long Beach
Mm.
when they were holding it at the Pyramid.
Yep.
So I got an opportunity there. I got to get my feet wet to kind of get an idea what the pro level is like, and I knew I had a lot of work ahead of me,
Mm.
and so when I transitioned into going to the Philippines, um, I felt like it was so new to me just because, I haven't been back. I don't go back. I wasn't going back every year, but
Yeah.
I would go back occasionally. But when I went back, this time it was all for basketball. And, I got an opportunity to play with two teams, which is Granny Goose,
Okay.
which was the PBL team, and Toyota Otis.
Okay.
But that only lasted for about a year and a half, 2 years. And honestly, going out there was definitely a grind. It was something that, we all dream about playing at the pro level, Then after PBL, I got an opportunity to try out for the national team, just to be able to get that tryout and just get a feel of what it's like. You're going against a lot of top athletes that are obviously going to represent the Philippine flag. So got an opportunity with that. My cousin just got drafted. He was number 2. And then, I asked management if I could jump on and just, see where I could, work out with the organization. So I ended up doing that and, did that for about 6 to 8 months. And, it didn't go as planned, but then I ended up going and doing something with Talk and Text. Same thing, So I was jumping, and honestly, it just, it wasn't the right timing. The timing just wasn't right. I was competing against the guys. I had a chance to, play a bit, obviously in the PBL, but overall, my experience in the Philippines wasn't the way I wanted it to be, and obviously there's a lot of athletes that been back home and pretty much went through the same process, but based on my experience, I gave it up. I ended up, just calling it a wraps. And, I said, you know what, I got my degree. Let me go back and be a teacher, So
Awesome.
Teaching kind of fell in my lap. Became a PE teacher.
There it is,
So
PE, baby.
after professionals, I went to education.
Nice. So what year was Talking Text? Did you play with Jimmy?
Yeah, I did actually. I was just roaming around as a practice player for a while. There was Mac Cardona, Jimmy Alapag. It was a pretty tight guard heavy group, So that didn't last very long, but to be able to say that I got to experience it, I can share to others that you got to be there and be ready to go. Obviously it's, you're obviously taking a local spot, which I was considered local because I was born in the Philippines,
right,
which made it easier, but they still looked at me as a FIL-AM just because, I was speaking English a lot and, I was trying to get in that transition of trying to speak Tagalog, but it just wasn't cutting for me, for a while. Maybe if I would have probably stayed for like 5 to 6 years, then I think, things would have been a little different. But if I could turn back the time, one thing I could probably tell myself is just be a little more prepared physically and mentally.
Right.
If you don't have the support, if you don't have that support while you're out there, you get a little lonely.
Yeah.
I was out there by myself. Like, who do I lean to? Who do I ask? Who do I tell? Who tells me like, Christian, you're still good, man.
Yeah.
Keep pushing.
Exactly.
And every athlete needs that.
For sure.
Every athlete needs that. You need somebody that's going to help push you and motivate you, because sometimes you question your you just question your playing style, your level of competition, if it's still at that level. So unfortunately, I didn't have that person, and you just got to have that mindset to be out there, be ready to grind.
And
So
we're gonna talk about that in a minute as we transition into uh, FIL-AM Nation, right? So,
yes,
reason why I bring up Jimmy because I had the opportunity to actually meet some of the teams. I used to coach at Cal State Dominguez Hills, and in the summertime, teams from overseas would come, whether either from the Philippines or Japan, and I, the coaches that I was working with, we were working out these members, and they're saying, "Hey, man, a Filipino team is coming." I was like, "What?" So it was cool to
yeah,
meet him. He was really cool, and I met that they had, I think it was a Tongan center, a big guy
yeah.
from Tonga.
Asitolava,
Yeah, that dude. Yeah,
Asitolava,
yeah,
yeah,
he was really cool, and that whole team and all the coaches were great. So blessings that you had that opportunity with them. So moving on, going from that experience, you decide to wrap it up. You come home, you get into education. You say PE. I was a PE teacher for 13 years myself, and went
yeah,
along with the coaching. Um, but going with that, right? So you're thinking about FIL-AM Nation Select, right? And you're
yeah.
doing that. What inspired you to do that? What made you do that? And what's your whole goal and mission for that?
You know what? So as soon as I got into education, 13 years later, obviously running Edge Basketball International, which is obviously my development basketball academy and AAU club. It just started ringing to my thoughts about, when I hear so many Filipinos trying to go back home to the Philippines from the U.S., I hear a lot of stories about, them not getting the support that they need, the right information that they need to ensure that they get picked up by either a school or a professional team, or just simply understanding the cultural aspect. And with just my 4.5 year of experience of being back home in the Philippines, it really triggered something in my brain to say, hey, you know what? Um, why don't people really actually help these kids the right way? I've always been about doing things the right way, because when you do the right things the right way, you're gonna end up getting the results that you want.
Sure.
So backtrack about a year ago, I went to go see my cousin's championship game against Magnolia, San Miguel versus Magnolia. And during that week-long final series, we were hanging out, and we just started chopping about, like, how can we help Filipinos? How can we bridge the gap? And pretty much that's when everything started. It just started clicking. Like, I started putting things on paper, writing it down. And I knew there's been a lot of people, including local people here in LA, that had the same idea, trying to help, Filipinos to go back home and play.
Okay.
And for me, I always thought to myself, in any business, you got to make sure you have a plan, but then the execution aspect is the key piece to putting everything in place. And what I mean by execution is making sure you have the right people around you, the right personnels, and then also the right information, making sure that when you do give information to athletes and parents, that it's valid information that they could take and, run with it. Now, obviously, a lot of people don't understand the process. So with the platform that we created, we're walking everybody through it. We're walking, the families and the athletes, and we're educating them about it. So when that series was done, the finals, I came back home. I spoke to my cousin Alex, and he knows that I'm going to execute it. With the 13 year of experience of running a club, that he knew, like, you know what, I'm going to leave this up to you, and I'm going to support it. And basically what Alex's job is to help me bridge the gap with all the Philippine college coaches, along with the PBA coaches, along with the national coaches.
Right.
And my job here is to create the platform,
Okay, so you mentioned something key back. I'm gonna go back a little
Yeah,
bit, and you mentioned something very important as far as the education, the culture, and understanding that and being prepared. So my question is, a lot of probably your potentials that are going to go over there to play college or pro, they are FIL-AM, and a lot of us do
right.
not speak. I, for one, I can barely
Yeah.
string a sentence together with Tagalog. So what what type of programs? What type is it done? Like one on one? Do you guys have group classes to talk about that culture? To talk about being assimilated into the Filipino culture back home, and how, like, what type of mechanisms or triggers or even support systems that you talked about once you do get those kids over there, before and after they go there and they come back, because it might be a little bit counterculture shock now to come back
Sure.
to America. So talk a little bit about that. Like, how does FIL-AM Nation Select package all that together for those
Absolutely.
players?
Well, at this time right now, I've been working with a couple organizations that actually teach the Philippine language.
Mm,
So we're working out a plan of action where we could offer, whether it be Phil-Ams or Phil Canadians or Phil Australians,
nice.
just a platform to be able to learn the language. Um, so part of the events that we run, which is our regional camps, we have a workshop during the basketball camp for the
Mm,
parents. And in that workshop, we provide the information of what they need to know. I mean, we give them a checklist. All right, number one, you know what? You got to go and take a trip to the Philippines year after year
yeah.
and just understand the culture. You got to understand the traffic. You got to understand just the simple, basic language of "Kumusta po," or
Sure.
"Maraming salamat," or
Mm,
just the simple things that you could just get by, and just so that people know, like, at least you're somewhat trying to know the culture and fit in at some point. Um, and with that, we try to explain, that going back home in the summertime is just an important piece to literally learning the culture.
mm,
So in that workshop, we make sure that they understand that the kids got to learn the language, they got
sure.
to go back home to the Philippines, and more importantly, the the most important educational piece is the paperwork process. That's the biggest key, because obviously it's like any country. Like, if people want to come here to the US, you got to have the right documents.
Sure.
You got to have the right visas.
Sure.
So um, you know migrating from the US to the Philippines, you got to know these steps.
Sure.
you know so with that, we have that workshop during our regional camps, and our hopes is that they do make those trips during the summertime, and be able to learn the culture, to be able to learn the language, and more importantly, the traffic.
Yeah.
Traffic is huge back home in the Philippines.
Right. Right. Right.
So if you're staying in Mandaluyong or Quezon City, and your practice is in Makati, you got to understand, how to wake up early in the morning and start getting on that train, or that jeepney, just to get to practice. Because
Right.
I can
Right.
recall when I was out there, I had to learn all that. I had to learn to make sure. There was even times where I was 2 hours ahead of practice. I was there already 2 hours early, before practice starts, just so that I knew I wasn't going to be late.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
to be able to go out there, it's that's one of the most important piece that we want to share to all our families and our athletes, that hey, you have to take a trip. That's a what do they call that in college? A prerequisite, right?
Oh yeah, exactly. A prereq. That's cool. Again,
Prereq.
you're watching HBTV with your host Harry Bugarin, and we are talking with Coach Chris. So I gotta ask you something, though, man. Gotta ask you something.
Yeah,
So you're doing all these camps, and you're gonna give me some dates and some information where I can get it, though. But my question to you is, I have daughters. I got cousins uh, who have daughters who are hoopers right now. Across the street, I got a girl from Bishop Montgomery. Got two Bishop Montgomery girls. Bishop Montgomery's a
nice.
pretty
Yeah,
powerhouse for basketball for girls, Filipinos, right?
yes,
Is it anything in place for that demographic to go out and have those same opportunities as well, or is there something
absolutely.
in the future that's going to be happening for that?
No, we've actually already started identifying, number one, obviously the top male athletes that are FIL-AMs, but we've also made sure that, you know, we didn't leave the females out, you know. And the beauty about this past year in March, you know, we had the national women's coach, Coach Pat Aquino. He dropped them by. We ran an event for all girls potentially that could play for the national team. So we had a handful of girls that came out from Las Vegas, Sacramento, San Diego, Seattle, and really he was able to see a great group of girls just to, you know, monitor these athletes so that, you know, for the future, he knows, okay, I can start handpicking these girls without having to trying to figure out where all these girls are all at, you know. But with the regional camps, we offer it to both boys and girls. And at the same time, you know, we are recognizing, you know, the young athletes that are grassroots from third, fourth graders all the way up to senior year. And we just recently awarded the top athletes for high school and college. And we recognized, you know, player of the year for high school, which was Lexi Marks out of Sierra Canyon.
Awesome.
Who she's headed to Boise State. And then you had, for college, Kayla Padilla. She actually went to Bishop Montgomery, which was a great thing. So she's a 5'9" guard that's going to UPenn, Ivy League school. So, you know, to recognize both men's and women's, to me is a very important piece to our community. We have to know that, you know, there's no discrimination when it comes to just helping out the boys' side. You know, we want to obviously help out the female side and empower them. You know, as you know, when the late Kobe Bryant passed away, you know, he was really advocating for girls basketball and, you know, the WNBA. So we want to continue that, not only on the U.S. end, but the stuff that we're doing here on the FIL-AM Nation organization. It's just really embracing both men's and women's basketball, you know.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. So as far as like the camps, let's say people want to get in touch with you. Let's say there's some coaches, there's some trainers who are in the area or wherever you're going to be at. What's the best way for them to get in contact with you to be involved in some of these camps to help out with your mission and your goal?
Well, the best way is to message me through our DM, through our Instagram. That's obviously the best thing right now. We're obviously trying to establish our website right now. We're working very diligently right now to ensure that we have a website that people can really go to and get the right information.
Okay.
The beauty about the IG is that, you know, it's worldwide and, you know, people can connect with it pretty fast.
Sure. And that's how we connected, right?
So by messaging us, you know, that's obviously the best way. But we do our job too. Like, we're not just sitting around, you know, waiting for coaches or trainers to look for us. We actually look for them. So with the information that we get from other trainers that knows another trainer or another coach, whether it be here in California or on the West Coast, same thing goes for the East Coast. You know, we want to see not only the best FIL-AM athletes, but we also want to see the best coaches, trainers that are also Filipino. You know, so we want to grow that. We want to grow that platform as well. You know, overall.
Yeah, that's sweet. That's sweet right there. So as far as future events, I know things have been on standstill for a little bit because of the current situation with COVID. Any updates on the next one that will possibly happen?
Yeah, right now we've already put together a plan of our dates of, you know, where the regional camps are going to be held, but to talk about the summit that's supposed to be held this August, first week of August, but with the situation that we have right now with COVID, you know, a lot of things is uncertain, and we don't want to put any families, you know, in a situation where, you know, they're booking hotels, they're booking flights, and then the event doesn't happen. So tomorrow, as I sit down with my team, we'll be able to decide whether or not we want to go ahead and push forward with the summit. And just to kind of educate everybody about the camps, we have the regional camps in multiple cities. We actually just held this past months that we held it in LA, we held it in San Francisco, and we held it also in Hawaii. This upcoming year, we're going to host, we're going to add at least 9 other cities, states, and countries. So we're going to include the FIL Canadians. So if the summit doesn't happen, we'll move forward with the regional camps once again and do another year and try to find those top athletes. And then we'll try to run the summit next year of 2021.
Right. No, that's awesome. Again, you're watching HBTV, the show, with our guest, Coach Chris. Coach, before I let you go, one last question.
Yes.
I asked this to some of our guests already, but let's just say you encounter a young Coach Chris Gopez, right? 18 years old, got all that energy, and is looking ahead to do what he needs to do. What would you tell that young Coach Chris Gopez?
You know what? I would definitely educate himself. Number one, just be able to do more, networking and build himself up at a level where he's comfortable. Because the most important piece about being around this type of environment is being able to talk to athletes, to parents, to coaches, and you got to be comfortable with that. Your mind got to be open to conversations, whether it's good or bad. And you got to be able to also share your experience to others. So one of the best advice I could give is, go through the experience, go through the hardship of, seeing what it takes to be a good coach. Because it's not easy to be a good coach. At first, I thought to myself, I was the best coach, but I had a lot to learn. Yeah. Being able to talk to athletes, how you conduct yourself in front of people when you're actually coaching. And then on the business side, there's obviously a business side to everything. You want to be able to learn how to separate both of those, how to separate the business and the basketball side to this environment that we're in. And it's not easy. And it takes a lot of experience and it takes a lot of patience. And I think when you understand that aspects, then, you're going to go far in life. But I think the number one thing that adds to all this is being able to listen, being a good listener and just taking a lot of information from a lot of different people and then putting it in your own way, And once you do, then I think, the sky's the limit, man. And you can go far in life and do the things you want to do and explore and be able to share it to other people,
Absolutely.
And that's my hopes. That's my goal is to be able to share that with others.
That's awesome. And you know what? And that's exactly why I wanted to invite you on the show. This isn't just about our Filipino people. It's about everybody. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
Whoever's doing something positive in our world community, I want to get to see them. I want to get to talk to them. I want to get to know what they're doing and get that message out. So I do appreciate your time, Coach. Blessed to have you. Honored to have you. If there's anything that I can do, let me know. If I can reach out to some of my coaches, some of my trainers, or any one of my contacts, just let me know. Please provide, later after we get off, any other links or information that I can put in the video's description. So when people go back and refer to this video, they can just click on links and get to that information. Love to see what happens with FIL-AM Nation Select as we go, and I would love to have you back as a guest.
Yes, let's do that.
Just to recap on a few things and just keep things going,
update.
brother. Yeah, an update.
Yeah.
So thanks again,
yes,
everybody. Sir. Coach Chris Gopez. Hit him up on IG if you guys need anything. You have a good night, brother. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so that was Coach Chris Gopez with at FIL-AM Nation Select. It was a pleasure to have him on and get to know him, get to know what his organization is doing. So if we have parents out there watching this who have, little hoopers out there, even in not just little ones, but junior high, high school, and looking to get more experience and looking to be a part of a travel ball team. And if you're just interested in your child and your son or daughter possibly going to play basketball in the Philippines, whether college or professional, definitely reach out to Coach Chris. I'll leave all the descriptions and the links in the video description once this is finished. And just hit him up. It was great to have him on and getting to know what he does. So that's it for today. I do appreciate you guys tuning in, watching later, and all that good stuff. Make sure next Sunday, tune in, as I got another special guest, a good friend of mine, FIL-AM, Low Cell Pre. We're going to talk a little bit about the music that he's put out, a little compilation he's done, and under his media production, which is called Future Unlimited Media. I'm pretty sure you've probably seen me post a couple things about it, but go ahead and follow him. He's going to have a lot of cool stuff coming out. So until next week, again, you're watching HBTV, the show with your host, Harry Bugarin. Talk to you guys later. Be safe and have a blessed week.